The sky above Earth looked wrong. Where once thousands of human satellites had orbited, now strange alien ships hung like dark stars. It had been 3 weeks since the Battle of Proxima Centauri, where Earth's best ships and bravest crews had been destroyed in less than 6 hours. The Galactic Hegemony, a group of alien species who controlled most of the known galaxy, had crushed humanity's defenses with ease. In an underground bunker beneath what remained of San Francisco, the last military leaders of Earth gathered around a steel table. Their faces showed defeat. Maps and reports covered the table, all telling the same story. Earth had lost. "We have no choice but to accept their terms," said General Williamson, his voice heavy. "They want our surrender by tomorrow." The room fell silent except for the soft hum of air filters. Then a chair scraped against the floor as Captain Alan Frost stood up. He was not tall, but his presence filled the room. His dark hair was cut short, and a scar ran from his left eye to his jaw, a reminder of his narrow escape from Proxima. "What if we build something they've never seen before?" Frost asked. "Something they won't expect?" Admiral Carol Hammond looked up, her gray eyes sharp despite her exhaustion. "We have no resources, Captain. No shipyards, no time." Frost walked to the front of the room. He was known for unusual ideas and solutions that broke rules. Some called him brilliant, others called him reckless. Right now, Earth needed both. "The hegemony thinks they know what we can build," he said. "They expect us to use standard designs and normal materials. But what if we use their own technology against them?" He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed pieces of destroyed alien ships floating in space near Mars. "My team has identified at least 16 hegemony wrecks in our system. Their technology is intact but abandoned. They consider it trash. We can use it." Admiral Hammond frowned. "The peace terms forbid us from building warships." "Not warships, as they understand them," Frost replied. "Something different, something human." For 3 hours, Frost explained his plan. By the end, Admiral Hammond nodded slowly. "You have 8 months before they return to begin what they call integration. If you fail, I never knew about this." 2 days later, Frost stood in an abandoned mining tunnel deep beneath the surface of Mars. With him were 4 people who would either help save humanity or share in its final defeat. Lieutenant Samantha Rivera checked weapon systems on a tablet. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes moved quickly over the data. She had memorized every hegemony weapon ever used against Earth and was determined to create something better. "These alien power systems don't connect with ours," she said without looking up. "We'll need to rebuild everything from scratch." Next to her, Chief Petty Officer Frank Daniels grunted. He was the oldest of the group, with calloused hands and a gray beard. "Been fixing spacecraft for 30 years. Never met a machine I couldn't make work." Dr. Olivia Wells paced the room. She was tall and thin, with short blonde hair and nervous energy. The scientific community had called her theories about quantum physics impossible. Now those same theories might save Earth. "The hegemony ships use quantum positioning. That's why they can move so quickly and predict our attacks," she explained. "But their system has limitations they don't even realize." The final member of the team walked in carrying a large crate of scrap metal. Petty Officer Ben Morris had worked in a junkyard before joining the Navy. He could look at broken parts and see how they might become something new. "Found these in the South Tunnel," Morris said, dropping the crate. "Alien alloy. Lightweight but stronger than anything we make. Perfect for the outer hull." Frost looked at his team. They weren't what most would choose to build a revolutionary spacecraft. But conventional thinking wouldn't save humanity now. "The hegemony thinks they've seen everything humans can do," Frost told them. "They believe we're predictable, limited. That's their weakness." Over the next few days, more people arrived. Engineers, mechanics, and scientists who had survived the battle. All sworn to secrecy. All working with the understanding that discovery meant death or worse. They built living quarters in the abandoned tunnels. Set up power systems using old mining equipment, created secure communications that bounced signals through the asteroid belt to avoid detection. The actual construction began in a massive cavern that had once held mining equipment. Frost stood at the center, directing teams, as they mapped out the basic shape of what would become their ship. No straight lines, he ordered. The hegemony designs everything with perfect symmetry. Our ship will be irregular, unpredictable. Lieutenant Rivera approached with a problem. The alien weapon systems are coded to their biology. We can't interface with them directly. Then we adapt, Frost replied. Use our understanding of the principles, not their implementation. In another section, Morris and Daniels argued over a pile of salvaged components. These power couplings won't work with human controls, Daniels insisted. Morris smiled. Not as designed. But what if we reverse the polarity and run them through a modified Earth circuit? Dr. Wells worked alone most of the time, filling screens with equations and occasionally laughing to herself when she solved a particularly difficult problem. Their quantum positioning system assumes certain constants, she told Frost one evening. But those constants only apply if you follow their rules of engineering. We're not going to do that. By the end of the first month, the basic frame of the ship began to take shape. It looked like nothing ever built by humans or aliens. Asymmetrical, with strange angles and unexpected curves. Parts that should have been outside were inside, protected by layers of systems that conventional designers would have placed elsewhere. Frost often stood alone at night, looking at their creation. It was ugly, impractical by normal standards, and possibly the most revolutionary ship ever conceived. Admiral Hammond visited once, arriving secretly aboard a supply ship. She walked around the partial construction in silence before turning to Frost. The hegemony representatives ask why we need so many mining supplies, she said. They're suspicious. Tell them we're preparing new habitats, Frost suggested. Getting ready for their grand vision of the future. Hammond nodded. You have 7 months left. Make them count. As she left, Frost returned to the makeshift bridge they had started building. Through a temporary viewport, he could see the red landscape of Mars. Somewhere beyond that dusty horizon, the hegemony waited, confident in their superiority. They think they know what humans are capable of, he whispered to himself. We're going to show them how wrong they are. The project continued day and night, a race against time. Every person involved knew the stakes. If they succeeded, humanity might survive with its freedom intact. If they failed, Earth would become just another conquered world in the hegemony's collection. And slowly, piece by unexpected piece, the ship that would change everything began to take form in the darkness beneath Mars. 3 months passed beneath the red dust of Mars. The secret ship grew each day, but so did the problems. Captain Alan Frost stood in what would someday be the engine room, staring at a failed power core. This was the 3rd attempt this week. It just won't connect to our systems, Chief Daniels said, wiping grease from his hands. The alien tech rejects our power inputs like they're designed to fail if anyone but them tries to use it. Frost touched the smooth metal of the alien device. It was cold despite the energy they had pumped into it. There has to be a way. Dr. Wells walked in carrying a tablet filled with data. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she moved with excitement. I think I found something, she said. She connected her tablet to the main screen on the wall. Complex patterns appeared, shifting and changing. Look at these connection points, she said, pointing to small nodes on the alien device. They're not random. They're designed to reject any connection that doesn't match their specific pattern. Like a lock, Frost said. Exactly. And every piece of their technology has the same type of lock, just with different patterns. Dr. Wells smiled. They built their tech to be impossible to copy or use by other species. Lieutenant Rivera joined them, frowning at the display. So they're ensuring their technological superiority by making their systems reject any integration. Attempts? Yes, Dr. Wells said. But now that we know the pattern exists, we can find a way around it, Frost finished. The team worked for 2 more days without rest. They weren't trying to crack the alien code anymore. Instead, they built an interface system that tricked the alien technology into thinking it was still connected to hegemony systems. When they finally activated the power core, blue energy flowed through the connections. The lights in the chamber brightened, and the gentle hum of power filled the room. "It works," Daniel said, his voice soft with wonder. The victory was short-lived. Alarms sounded throughout the base. Lieutenant Rivera rushed to a communication panel. "Hegemony inspection ships just entered Mars orbit," she reported. "Unscheduled visit." Frost activated the base-wide communication system. "All personnel, initiate Protocol Shadow. This is not a drill." Throughout the cavern, teams quickly covered the half-built ship and moved equipment into hidden chambers. Some sections were too large to hide completely. "We need more time," Rivera said. Dr. Wells approached with a small device in her hand. "I've been working on this," she said. "It's a holographic projector using modified hegemony tech. It can make things look like something else." "Will it fool their scanners?" Frost asked. "For a short time, yes. But someone needs to stay and adjust it constantly while they're here. The pattern needs human guidance to remain convincing." Frost nodded. "I'll do it." "Sir," Rivera protested, "if they catch you, then the rest of you continue without me," he said firmly. "This ship needs to be finished no matter what happens to any one of us." 4 hours later, 3 hegemony inspectors moved through the cavern. They were tall beings with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and black, designed to see spectrums of light humans could not perceive. Frost stood near the holographic projector, making small adjustments as needed. Where the ship actually sat, the aliens saw only mining equipment and storage containers. Every time they moved closer to investigate, Frost changed the projection slightly to keep their interest elsewhere. "Your mining operation seems inefficient," the lead inspector said, its voice translated by a small device at its throat. "We're still learning," Frost replied with a fake smile. "Earth hasn't needed to mine Mars extensively until now." The inspector made a gesture that might have been disbelief. "The hegemony could provide more advanced equipment. Thank you, but we prefer to develop our own methods. It helps us learn our place in the galaxy." The inspection lasted for 6 tense hours. When the aliens finally left, Frost collapsed into a chair, exhausted from maintaining the deception. That night, the team gathered to discuss their close call. "We need better hiding methods," Rivera said. "They'll be back, and next time they might bring more sensitive equipment." Ben Morris, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "I found something while salvaging yesterday. It's a piece of their reactor system, but they threw it away. Apparently it was too degraded for their standards." He placed a small cylinder on the table. It glowed with a faint purple light. "It still has power," he continued. "A lot of it. And I think I can reconfigure it to create a new type of propulsion system." Dr. Wells scanned the device. "This is incredible. The energy signature is unlike anything in our records." "The hegemony considers it garbage," Morris said with a slight smile, "just like they consider us." Over the next few weeks, Morris worked with Daniels to incorporate the salvaged reactor component into the ship's design. What emerged was a propulsion system unlike any ever built by humans or aliens. "It doesn't push the ship forward like normal engines," Morris explained to Frost during a test. "It actually folds space slightly around the ship, reducing resistance to almost nothing." "Is it faster than hegemony ships?" Frost asked. "Not exactly, but it's more efficient. And they won't recognize the energy signature because they've never used this configuration." Captain Frost walked through the growing ship each day, watching as it took form. The design broke every rule of conventional spacecraft engineering. Systems that should have been separate were connected. Power flowed in patterns that seemed random, but followed a human logic no alien would understand. The crew began calling the ship Patchwork because of its appearance. Parts of human technology meshed with alien components, all covered by an asymmetrical hull made from salvaged materials. Admiral Hammond visited again after 6 months. She walked through the ship in silence before meeting with Frost in his small office. "The Hegemony Council is asking questions," she said. "They've noticed unusual power signatures from Mars." "We're almost at the testing phase," Frost replied. 2 more months and we'll be ready." Hammond nodded slowly. "Earth can't wait 2 months. They've moved up their timeline for integration. Their ships will arrive in 3 weeks. Frost felt cold fear run through him. 3 weeks? We can't finish in 3 weeks. You may not have a choice, Hammond said. Reports from other worlds show that integration means much more than we first thought. The hegemony doesn't just take over planets. They rebuild the native species to serve them better. Rebuild? You mean genetically? Yes. They keep the useful traits and remove what they call evolutionary flaws, including free will and independence. Frost stood and looked out the small window at the patchwork. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't complete, but it might be humanity's only hope. We'll launch in 3 weeks, he said. Ready or not? Admiral Hammond placed a hand on his shoulder. Make it count, Captain. All of Earth is depending on you, even if they don't know it. After she left, Frost called his core team together. We have 3 weeks, he told them. The hegemony is coming to change who we are as a species. We need to finish this ship and make it work. They looked at each other, exhaustion in their eyes, but determination too. 3 weeks to save humanity, Lieutenant Rivera said. No pressure. For the first time in months, they all laughed. Then they got back to work, racing against a deadline that meant the end of human freedom. The days passed quickly as the team worked around the clock. Everyone felt the pressure of the 3-week deadline. Captain Frost barely slept, moving from one section of the ship to another, solving problems and keeping spirits high. We need more supplies, Lieutenant Rivera said during their morning meeting. Especially metals for the weapon systems. Frost nodded. I'll send Lieutenant Peterson to Earth for another supply run. He can take the small shuttle and be back in 2 days. Lieutenant Greg Peterson was their supply officer, a quiet man who had joined the project 4 months ago. He nodded and left to prepare for the journey. The work continued. Dr. Wells and her team finalized the ship's navigation system, using a combination of human intuition and alien precision. Morris and Daniels completed the propulsion tests, and the results exceeded expectations. She'll be faster than anything the hegemony has, Daniels said proudly, patting the engine housing. Not bad for a bunch of scrap. 2 days passed, then 3. Lieutenant Peterson did not return from Earth. Something's wrong, Frost told Rivera as they stood in the command center. Peterson should have been back yesterday. Before Rivera could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. A young technician rushed in, her face pale with fear. Hegemony ships just entered Mars orbit, she reported. At least 20 of them. They're scanning the surface with high-energy beams. Frost activated the base-wide communication system. All personnel, this is not a drill. Prepare for emergency launch. I repeat, prepare for emergency launch. People ran in all directions, securing equipment and moving to their assigned stations. The ship wasn't finished, but they had no choice now. The main door to the command center slid open and Admiral Hammond walked in. Her uniform was wrinkled and her face showed strain. We've been betrayed, she said without preamble. Peterson gave them everything. Why? Rivera asked, shock clear on her face. He believed cooperation was better than resistance, Hammond said. He thought he was saving lives. Frost felt anger but pushed it aside. There was no time for emotions now. How long until they reach us? He asked. Minutes, Hammond replied. I've ordered all other bases to send distracting signals, but it won't fool them for long. She handed Frost a small data chip. This contains classified hegemony navigational data. My position allowed me access to information no other humans have seen. It might help. Frost stared at her. You've been helping us all along. Hammond nodded. My public opposition was necessary. Someone had to appear to be following their rules. Loud explosion shook the base. Dust fell from the ceiling. They're targeting the main entrance, Rivera reported. Get to the ship, Hammond ordered. I'll hold them off as long as possible. Come with us, Frost said. Hammond shook her head. Someone has to explain why half the staff is missing. Besides, they won't hurt me immediately. I'm too valuable as a hostage. Another explosion, closer this time. Go. Hammond pushed Frost toward the exit. That's an order, Captain. Frost hesitated, then nodded. He and Rivera ran toward the ship, joining the rest of the core team who were already aboard. Status? Frost demanded as he entered the bridge. Engines online, Morris reported from his station. Hull integrity at 82%. Weapons? Frost asked, turning to Rivera. Primary systems operational. Secondary still offline. Dr. Wells looked up from her console. Navigation is functioning, but the quantum positioning system is unstable. Frost took his place in the command chair. It wasn't comfortable. They hadn't had time for such luxuries, but it gave him a view of all stations. Begin launch sequence, he ordered. The ship hummed to life around them. Lights flickered as power flowed through systems that had never been fully tested together. Hegemony forces have breached the main base, Daniels reported, watching a security feed. They're moving toward our position. Open the cavern roof, Frost commanded. Above them, massive doors that had been disguised as part of the Martian surface began to slide apart. Red dust fell onto the ship as daylight streamed in. Full power to engines, Frost said. Take us up. The ship rose shakily at first, then with more confidence as Morris adjusted the power flow. They cleared the cavern just as alien troops entered below. They're firing, Rivera warned. The ship shuddered as energy beams struck its hull. But the unusual design did what Frost had hoped. It deflected much of the energy instead of absorbing it. Set course for the asteroid belt, Frost ordered. Maximum speed. The Martian landscape fell away beneath them. Hegemony ships appeared, on their scanners moving to intercept. They're hailing us, Dr. Wells said. Frost nodded. Put it through. A Hegemony commander appeared on the main screen. Its blue skin seemed to glow with anger. Human vessel, you have violated the terms of surrender. Power down immediately or be destroyed. We respectfully decline, Frost replied, then signaled to cut the communication. They're locking weapons, Rivera reported. Evasive maneuvers, Frost ordered. Morris, show us what this engine can do. Morris grinned and adjusted controls. The ship surged forward with unexpected speed, making the crew grab their stations for support. The Hegemony vessels fired, but most of their shots missed as the human ship moved in patterns no normal craft would use. The few hits that connected seemed to do less damage than expected. Their targeting systems can't predict our movements, Rivera said with surprise. Our asymmetrical design is confusing their computers. Distance to asteroid belt? Frost asked. 2 minutes at current speed, Dr. Wells replied. Another hit rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across control panels. Portside energy conduit damaged, Daniels reported. Rerouting power. Frost watched as the Hegemony ships formed a blocking pattern ahead of them. There were too many to fight, especially with their weapons not fully operational. Morris, prepare for emergency jump, he ordered. The jump system hasn't been tested, Morris warned. It could tear the ship apart. We have no choice. As the Hegemony ships closed in, Morris activated the experimental jump drive. The ship shuddered violently. Panels sparked and alarms blared. For a moment, it seemed the ship would break apart. Then reality itself seemed to bend around them. The stars blurred and darkness engulfed them. When the ship emerged from the jump, they were deep in the asteroid belt. No Hegemony vessels appeared on their scanners. It worked, Morris said, sounding surprised. The crew let out a collective breath. They had escaped, but at a cost. Smoke rose from several consoles and the ship's power levels were dangerously low. Damage report, Frost requested. Multiple systems compromised, Daniels replied. We lost 20% of hull integrity. Life support is functioning but strained. Frost looked around at his exhausted crew. They had accomplished the impossible, building and launching a ship that could outrun the Hegemony. But they were far from safe. Find us a secure location to hide, he told Dr. Wells. We need time to make repairs. As Wells searched for a suitable asteroid, Frost studied the strange ship around him. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't complete, but it had saved their lives and possibly humanity's future. He thought of Admiral Hammond, now likely in Hegemony custody. Her sacrifice had given them this chance and he wouldn't waste it. What do we call her? Rivera asked, breaking into his thoughts. The ship needs a name. Frost looked at the patched-together vessel that represented humanity's last hope. USS Defiance, he said quietly. Because that's what she is. Our defiance against those who would end human freedom. The name felt right. They were 5 humans, aboard an experimental vessel, being hunted by the most powerful military force in the galaxy. But they weren't finished yet. Not by a long shot. Hidden deep in the asteroid belt, the USS Defiance drifted between 2 large rocks. The ship's external lights were off, making it nearly invisible against the dark background of space. Inside, the crew worked tirelessly to complete systems that should have had weeks more development time. Captain Frost moved through the narrow corridors, checking on each team. The ship still felt strange to him, not like any vessel he had served on before. Cables hung from ceilings where panels hadn't been installed. Exposed circuitry glowed along the walls. The air smelled of hot metal and ozone. He found Lieutenant Rivera in the weapons control room, her hands deep inside an open panel. "How's it coming?" he asked. She didn't look up. "I've integrated the main weapon system with the power core, but there's a synchronization issue. When we fire, the energy fluctuations could affect other systems. Keep working on it. We need those weapons operational." In the engine room, Morris and Daniels argued over a complex diagram displayed on a screen. "The power flow is all wrong," Daniels insisted. "You can't route energy that way." Morris shook his head. "Normal rules don't apply. This isn't a standard configuration. If you do it your way, the whole system could overload. If we do it the standard way, we'll be no different from every other human ship the hegemony has destroyed." Frost interrupted before the argument could escalate. "What's the status?" Morris turned to him. "We're ready to test the main weapon system, but we disagree on how to route the power." "What are the options?" Daniels pointed to the screen. "The safe approach is to isolate the weapon systems from the main power grid. It will give us less firepower but more stability." "And your approach?" Frost asked Morris. "Connect everything. Let the power flow through all systems simultaneously. It will make the ship more powerful but less predictable." Frost studied the diagram. "Do it Morris's way. The hegemony expects us to follow the rules. We won't." Dr. Wells joined them, her tablet displaying new calculations. "The quantum positioning system is finally stable," she reported, "but I found something unusual. When we jumped here, the ship absorbed some of the energy from the hegemony weapons fire." "Absorbed?" Frost asked. "Not deflected?" "Both, actually. The hull composition we created seems to have properties we didn't anticipate. It can take enemy energy and store it temporarily." Morris looked up sharply. "Could we redirect that stored energy?" Dr. Wells nodded slowly. "Theoretically, yes. But it would require a human operator to make real-time adjustments. No computer could handle the variables." "Make it happen," Frost ordered. "Any advantage we can get will help." An hour later, the crew gathered on the bridge for the weapons test. The Defiance had moved to a safer location, away from the densest part of the asteroid belt. "Target is in position," Rivera reported, pointing to a small screen showing a defunct satellite they had found drifting in space. "All personnel secure for weapons test," Frost announced over the ship-wide communication system. The bridge crew strapped into their stations. Frost nodded to Rivera. "Fire when ready." She pressed a sequence of controls. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship shuddered violently. Lights flickered and died. Warning alarms blared throughout the vessel. "Power surge!" Daniels shouted. "Main systems failing." The bridge went dark. Emergency lights kicked on, bathing everything in red. The ship drifted, powerless. "What happened?" Frost demanded. "Energy feedback loop," Morris said, working frantically at his station. "The weapon pulled more power than expected and sent it back through the main systems. For 10 tense minutes they worked to restore power. When the lights finally came back on, Rivera looked at the targeting screen. "The satellite is gone," she said quietly. "Completely vaporized." Dr. Wells studied the readings on her console. "The weapon worked too well. It drew power from every system on the ship and amplified it beyond our calculations." Frost looked at the screen where the satellite had been. Their weapon was more powerful than expected, but they couldn't use it if it shut down the ship each time. We need a solution, he said. We can't fight if our weapons disable us. Dr. Wells was quiet for a moment, her mind working through the problem. What if... she began, then stopped. What? Frost prompted. What if we add a human element to the equation? Our computers can't handle the energy fluctuations, but a human operator might be able to feel the flow and adjust accordingly. Feel it? Daniels asked skeptically. Yes. Create an interface that allows a human to sense the energy levels and make intuitive adjustments. No hegemony ship would have such a system because they rely entirely on automation. It took 2 days to build. The interface Dr. Wells had proposed. It was a strange device, part machine, part organic. The operator would wear a special glove connected to the ship's systems, allowing them to feel the energy flow and adjust it with hand movements. Rivera volunteered to be the first to try it. She sat at her station with the glove on her right hand. Ready for test 2, she announced. This time they targeted a small asteroid. Rivera activated the weapon, but instead of letting the computers control the energy flow, she used the glove to guide it. Her hand moved as if conducting music, fingers spreading and contracting. The ship hummed with power, but there was no surge, no feedback loop. A beam of blue-white energy shot from the ship and struck the asteroid, cutting it cleanly in half. It worked? Rivera said, surprise in her voice. I could feel the energy building up and redirected it before it could damage our systems. Frost nodded with satisfaction. This is what will give us an edge. No hegemony ship would ever implement a system that relies on human intuition rather than precise calculations. As the crew celebrated their success, alarms sounded. A ship had appeared on their scanners. Hegemony scout, Morris reported, studying the readout. Probably searching the belt for us. Have they seen us? Frost asked. Not yet. They're still at extreme range. Frost considered their options. They could hide deeper in the belt and continue working on the ship, or they could engage the scout and test their systems in actual combat. Battle stations, he decided. We need to know if this ship can fight, and we need to keep that scout from reporting our position. The crew moved quickly to their positions. The Defiance powered up, its strange engines glowing with energy. Approach pattern? Morris asked. Nothing standard, Frost replied. Make it unpredictable. The Defiance moved out from behind the asteroids, accelerating in a zigzag pattern no conventional ship would use. The Hegemony scout detected them almost immediately and turned to engage. They're scanning us, Dr. Wells reported. Their computers are trying to identify our ship type. Let them try, Frost said with a grim smile. They've never seen anything like us before. The scout fired first, energy beams lancing through space toward the Defiance. Morris jinked the ship, avoiding most of the shots. One beam grazed their hull. Hull absorbing energy, Dr. Wells called out, just as we predicted. Rivera, return fire, Frost ordered. Rivera activated the weapon system, her gloved hand moving delicately. The Defiance fired, its beam striking the Hegemony vessel directly. The scout's shields flared and failed. Their shields are down, Rivera reported. Fire again, minimal power. We want to disable, not destroy. The second shot hit the scout's engine section. The alien ship drifted, powerless. They're sending a distress signal, Dr. Wells warned. Jam it, Frost ordered. Minutes later, the Defiance approached the disabled Hegemony vessel. Frost looked at his crew. We just defeated a Hegemony ship, he said quietly. Let's see what information we can recover from it. Captain Frost stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, staring at the main screen. It displayed information recovered from the disabled Hegemony scout ship. The alien text had been translated by Dr. Wells, and what it revealed chilled everyone to the bone. The integration process is not just control, Dr. Wells said, her voice shaking slightly. It's complete genetic modification. They plan to rewrite human DNA to remove what they call evolutionary flaws. What flaws? Rivera asked. Independence, creativity, free will. Wells scrolled through more data. They've done this to 12 other species. Once the process starts, it takes less than a month to complete. Frost felt cold anger building inside him. How long until they begin? According to this, they already have. Wells pointed to a section of text. The first processing centers are operational in major Earth cities. They're starting with children. Silence fell over the bridge. Each person processed the horror of what they were learning. We need to warn Earth, Daniels said finally. If we send a message, we'll reveal our position, Morris countered. Frost studied the tactical display. According to the scout ship's data, the hegemony had a massive command ship orbiting Jupiter. It coordinated all integration activities in the solar system. We have two choices, Frost said. Return to Earth and likely be captured, or take the fight directly to the hegemony command ship. Attack their command ship? Rivera looked skeptical. Sir, we're one small vessel against their most powerful warship. We're also the only ship they've never encountered before, Frost replied. A ship they can't predict. The crew discussed options for hours. In the end, the decision was unanimous. They would attack the command ship. Even if they failed, the attempt might disrupt the hegemony's plans long enough for some humans to escape the solar system. They expect us to be predictable, Frost told his crew as they prepared for battle. To follow standard military doctrine, we won't do that. We'll use every unexpected advantage we have. The plan they developed was unlike any conventional attack strategy. The Defiance would approach Jupiter appearing to surrender. Once close enough to the command ship, they would launch a multi-vector assault using their unique capabilities. As they approached Jupiter, the massive gas giant filled their view screen. In orbit around it floated the hegemony command ship. It was enormous, at least 20 times the size of the Defiance. Its sleek, symmetrical design contrasted sharply with the human vessel's irregular shape. They're scanning us, Dr. Wells reported. Let them, Frost replied. Morris, begin broadcasting the surrender message we prepared. The message was simple. The rogue human vessel wished to surrender peacefully to avoid further conflict. It was exactly what the hegemony would expect from a defeated enemy. They're responding, Wells said. They're ordering us to approach Docking Bay 7 and power down all systems. Acknowledge and comply, Frost ordered. Rivera, make sure the weapons are charged but dormant. Daniels, prepare the modified jump drive. The Defiance moved slowly toward the command ship. As they drew closer, the true scale of the alien vessel became apparent. It was a city in space housing thousands of hegemony personnel. In position, Morris reported. Frost took a deep breath. Execute attack pattern Phoenix. The Defiance suddenly accelerated, veering away from the docking bay. At the same time, Rivera activated the weapons systems, her gloved hand moving in precise gestures. The ship fired at 3 different points on the command ship simultaneously. Direct hits, she reported. Their shields are holding but weakening. The hegemony vessel responded immediately, firing multiple weapon arrays. The Defiance moved in an erratic pattern, avoiding most shots. Those that connected were partially absorbed by the hull. Energy storage at 40%, Wells called out. Ready to redirect? Do it, Frost ordered. Rivera made a sweeping motion with her gloved hand. The energy the Defiance had absorbed was channeled through its weapons and fired back at the command ship. The concentrated beam pierced the alien shields, damaging one of their main weapon arrays. They're launching fighter craft, Morris warned. Dozens of small hegemony vessels poured from the command ship, moving to surround the Defiance. Morris, execute jump sequence, Frost commanded. The Defiance's experimental drive activated, causing the ship to disappear and reappear behind the command ship. The sudden maneuver confused the hegemony fighters, which had to change course to pursue. Target their propulsion systems, Frost ordered. Rivera directed another attack, striking the command ship's main engines. Explosions blossomed along the alien vessel's hull. Their engines are damaged, she reported, but our weapon energy is depleted. More hegemony ships appeared on their scanners, responding to the command ship's distress calls. The Defiance was quickly becoming outnumbered. We've hurt them, but we can't destroy them, Morris said, his voice tense. There are too many. Frost knew he was right. They had achieved more than anyone could have expected, damaging the supposedly invincible command ship, but now they faced overwhelming odds. "Prepare for another jump," he ordered. "We'll retreat and—" "Sir?" Wells interrupted, pointing to her display. "New contacts appearing. They're human ships?" Frost stared at the scanner. A fleet of Earth vessels was approaching rapidly. They were old ships, pre-war vessels that had been deemed too outdated to participate in the Battle of Proxima Centauri. But there were dozens of them. "They're hailing us," Wells said with surprise. A familiar face appeared on the screen. Admiral Hammond, looking tired but very much alive. "Thought you could use some help, Captain," she said with a slight smile. "Admiral," Frost replied, relief in his voice. "We thought you were captured." "I was, but it seems your little demonstration inspired a resistance movement. When the hegemony started their integration process, people fought back. These ships were hidden in the outer system as a last resort. The Earth fleet engaged the hegemony vessels, drawing fire away from the Defiance. Though individually less powerful, their numbers and coordination made them effective. The command ship is still vulnerable, Rivera pointed out. If we hit their central control nexus, we could disable their entire network. Frost nodded. "Admiral, can your fleet keep their reinforcements busy while we make another run at the command ship? Consider it done, Captain. Show them what humans are capable of." With the Earth fleet engaging the hegemony reinforcements, the Defiance had another chance. Morris guided the ship through a series of maneuvers no conventional vessel could perform, bringing them close to the command ship's control nexus. "Rivera, everything we've got," Frost ordered. Rivera closed her eyes, feeling the energy flow through the ship. Her gloved hand moved in a complex pattern as she directed all remaining power to the weapons. The Defiance fired, the beam striking precisely at the command ship's center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a series of explosions cascaded through the alien vessel. Systems failed in chain reactions as the central control nexus collapsed. "Their coordination is failing," Wells reported excitedly. "The hegemony ships are losing their command guidance." Without the command ship's direction, the hegemony fleet fell into disarray. Some vessels retreated while others continued fighting without coordination. The battle wasn't over, but the tide had turned. For the first time since the war began, humanity had a real chance. Hours later, with the hegemony forces in retreat, Captain Frost stood on the bridge of the battered Defiance. Admiral Hammond had come aboard to meet with them. "The integration centers on Earth have been shut down," she informed them. "Without the command ship, their network collapsed." "Will they be back?" Frost asked. "Eventually, but now we know they can be beaten." Hammond looked around at the strange ship. "This vessel changed everything. It showed us that human creativity and unpredictability are our greatest strengths." The Defiance had lived up to its name. Built from scraps that others had discarded, it had become the deadliest warship in the galaxy. Not through superior firepower or technology, but through the human spirit it embodied. "What happens now?" Rivera asked. Frost looked out at the stars, visible through the viewport. "Now we rebuild, we prepare, and we show the galaxy that humanity won't be controlled or changed." The Defiance wasn't pretty, it wasn't perfect, but it had done what no other ship could do. It had given humanity a future, and somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, other species under hegemony control had begun to hear rumors of the strange human ship that had defeated the undefeatable. A spark of hope was spreading through the galaxy, carried by whispered stories of the vessel built from scrap that had achieved supremacy against all odds.